They told me I was destined for nothing more than a simple life. My childhood felt cheated from me, replaced by whispers and pity. Decades later, with a successful career and degrees, I stumbled upon old documents detailing a low IQ diagnosis. My whole life a cruel hoax. Now I'm fighting to prove who I really am. You know how sometimes you just know something is going to be a pain in the ass before you even start? That was me last Saturday. My parents had finally decided to downsize, which meant their garage, attic, and every forgotten corner of their house became my personal archaeology dig. They dumped a couple of boxes in my spare room, labeled vaguely as your old stuff. Great. Just what I needed to sort through 2 decades of my childhood mementos. I cracked open the first box, immediately assaulted by the smell of old paper and dusty plastic. Faded school projects, a ridiculously ugly handmade clay pot, a bunch of chipped action figures, total nostalgia overload, and not the good kind. I was mostly just trying to find the keepsakes and ditch the junk. That's when my fingers brushed against a stiff, official-feeling envelope tucked away under a pile of elementary school report cards. It wasn't decorated with crayon drawings or glitter glue, which immediately made it stand out. I pulled it out. The paper felt thick, aged crinkly at the edges. No return address, just my full name handwritten in a looping cursive I didn't recognize, and a date from like 40 years ago. My curiosity piqued. I carefully tore open the seal. Inside were a few folded sheets. Medical documents. From when I was 4 years old. That alone was weird. Who keeps medical records from when their kid was 4 in a box with their comic books? I started skimming. Pediatrician's name, I vaguely recognized dates, checkups, normal kid stuff. Then my eyes snagged on a paragraph, a specific number staring back at me like a punch to the gut. It was a report from some kind of cognitive assessment. And there it was in black and white, an IQ score. Into the 50s. My brain just stopped. For a second I thought I'd misread it. 50-something? That's not a thing you just have and then go on to my life. I reread the line slowly, carefully. The numbers didn't change. My breath hitched. This had to be a typo, right? A misplaced decimal, a clerical error from a bygone era. My immediate thought was that this piece of paper was a relic from some alternate universe. I flipped to the next page, my hands shaking slightly now. And that's when I saw it. Another medical record, a diagnosis summary. The letters were stark, unequivocal. Mr. D.D. Mental retardation, developmental disability. The words hit me like a physical blow. Mr. D.D. Me. As a 4-year-old. My mind raced, trying to find an explanation, a way to dismiss this. It simply didn't compute. My life, my entire reality was screaming that this was impossible. Further down there was a brief note about follow-up testing for Fragile X syndrome, but searching through the rest of the paperwork there was absolutely no mention of any actual diagnosis or results from that. Just the initial alarming suggestion. It just vanished. I sat there on the floor, surrounded by the remnants of a childhood that suddenly felt like a lie. My first instinct was a visceral rejection of the whole thing. This cannot be real. These documents are wrong. They have to be. Because if they're not, then what the hell does that mean for everything else? What does it mean for me? I wanted to toss them back in the box and pretend I never saw them, but the words were burned into my retinas. The sheer overwhelming clash between what these papers said and everything I am is just, it's unbearable. Reddit, I'm sitting here trying to process this. I just don't understand how any of this could be real. What do you even do when your entire sense of self is shattered by something you found in an old box? Has anyone ever encountered anything this contradictory? I'm completely lost. Okay, you asked me to continue, and honestly I haven't been able to think about much else since I pulled those papers out of the box. They're still sitting on my coffee table, mocking me next to a stack of scientific journals where my name is actually printed. It's like they're screaming, this shouldn't be you. After the initial shock wore off, the immediate thing I did was try to make sense of it all. I mean, here's my life, right? I spent 2 decades building a career. I've got a couple of degrees, one from a pretty decent university, and a handful of certifications that weren't exactly a walk in the park to get. My specialty is in analysis. I literally get paid to untangle complex datasets, find patterns, and draw conclusions that inform big decisions. It's not rocket science, no PhD here, but it's definitely not a job someone with an IQ of 50-something would be doing. Then there are the papers. The scientific community. My name authored and co-authored on multiple published works. These aren't just blog posts, these are peer-reviewed publications. The kind of thing that requires rigorous thinking, understanding complex methodologies, and articulating ideas clearly. My brain just kept replaying these facts one after another, trying to crush the words Mr. DD under the weight of my adult reality. This is my proof. This is what I am. So how the hell can that 4-year-old diagnosis exist? My mind started working overtime, digging through old memories, trying to find anything that might explain the documents without invalidating everything else. I remember being a kid. Yeah, I got confused a lot, especially when it came to social cues or intricate instructions. And my grades weren't always stellar, mostly because I was a chronic procrastinator and hated homework. I'd rather be outside riding my bike than doing multiplication tables. My parents and teachers always just called me lazy. Which honestly was probably true. But here's the kicker: I often scored surprisingly high on tests. It was like I could absorb information in class, but applying myself to the drudgery of homework was a bridge too far. Then a specific memory surfaced sharp and clear like a beacon in the fog. It was during a 4th grade evaluation, some kind of routine checkup with a school psychologist or guidance counselor. I remember sitting across from a kind-faced woman with big glasses. She wasn't just talking to me, she was watching me read, asking me questions about the story. I don't remember the exact conversation, but I remember her turning to my mom afterward, her voice hushed but distinct. "He has a college reading level," Shed said. A college reading level? In 4th grade? My mom had just nodded, maybe a bit surprised, but not overly so. It was one of those things that just kind of was. Now juxtaposing that memory with IQ in the 50s and Mr. DD is making my head spin. How can a child with a college reading level be mentally retarded? These two realities feel mutually exclusive, like trying to fit a square peg into a black hole. My goal right now is to find any logical explanation. Maybe the test was administered incorrectly. Maybe it was a misdiagnosis. But the documents look legitimate, official. The more I try to reconcile it, the deeper this unsettling doubt sinks in. It's not just a puzzle anymore, it's a fundamental question about my own authenticity. If those documents are true, then everything I've accomplished, every piece of paper with my name on it, every certification I've earned, it feels like a lie, a grand illusion. It's making me question if my entire life has just simply been faked this whole time. Reddit, I'm grappling with this profound sense of being a fraud. How do you live with something like this? Is it possible for a diagnosis from that young to be so fundamentally wrong, and for a person to just outgrow it or prove it wrong with their entire life? I need to figure out how to bridge this gap, or at least understand it. Has anyone been through something similar where an old diagnosis completely contradicts their adult reality? How did you even begin to process it? Alright, here we go with part 3. The weirdness isn't going away, if anything it's getting worse. The disbelief has curdled into something far more unsettling. The initial shock and the frantic attempts to logically disprove those documents. Yeah, that's worn off. Now it's been replaced by this heavy, crushing feeling that every single thing I've ever achieved, every single accolade, every damn paper with my name on it, it all feels like a colossal, elaborate sham. It's like someone just told me I've been living in a simulation, and the whole time I was playing a character I wasn't supposed to be. I look at my degrees hanging on the wall and they feel like props. My scientific publications sitting right there on my desk look like carefully forged documents. It's an absolutely debilitating feeling of being a complete and utter fake. My mind keeps going back to those horrifying acronyms, IQ in the 50s. Mr. DD. And then it starts playing these cruel what-if scenarios, like a particularly sadistic movie reel. If those documents were true, if that was my real intellectual capacity, then my life should have been fundamentally different. I picture it not sitting here in my apartment, analyzing complex data, writing papers, engaging in intellectual discourse. No. I'd be in some kind of assisted living facility maybe, or working a job where I bag groceries at a supermarket, if I could even manage that. That's probably the best case scenario. I wouldn't have been able to hold down any of the jobs I've had, let alone ones that require critical thinking and problem solving. My long-term relationships? Forget about it. The depth of connection, the shared understanding, the ability to build a life with someone that simply wouldn't be possible. Everything that makes my life would be gone. It's a terrifying void and it keeps sucking me in. The chilling realization keeps hitting me: my actual life, the one I'm living right now, simply should not exist if those childhood documents were accurate. It's a fundamental contradiction. A glitch in the matrix, and I'm the glitch. This isn't just about proving the documents wrong anymore. It's about validating my very existence. It's about understanding how such a profound discrepancy could exist. It's an existential crisis playing out in my brain on repeat. I'm desperate for answers. I need to somehow reconcile this impossible past with my undeniable present. Is there something I missed? A follow-up test that did say I was fine. A reason for that initial terrible assessment. The dilemma is this part of me is terrified of digging deeper. What if I find something that confirms the worst? What if I uncover some dark truth that validates those documents and shatters the illusion I've been living? The thought alone is paralyzing. But the alternative, living with this unbearable soul-crushing weight of an unresolved existential question, is even worse. This constant feeling of being a fraud is eating me alive. I can't just ignore it, it's infiltrated every corner of my mind. Reddit, I'm at a complete loss. I feel like my entire identity has been called into question by some faded pieces of paper from my childhood. I need to know how to move forward. How do you deal with something so fundamentally challenging to your sense of self? What would be the first step in trying to understand such a massive, life-altering contradiction? Should I even try to find out more, or just try to bury these documents again and ignore them, even though I know I can't? Any advice on how to navigate this psychological minefield would be incredibly helpful right now. I'm completely overwhelmed.